Okay, people, not in a million years would I have figured Kwame Brown, first pick in the 2001 NBA draft, to be the prophet of truth that he has become. If you haven't seen what's been going on, you have to look at about a week and a half ago. You have the All the Smoke podcast with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes did what they and others have done for a long time, and they've kind of clowned on Kwame Brown, who is seen as, in some circles, as a bust. And Kwame Brown's not having it. I guess something snapped. Although I don't mean something snapped in a bad way. I just mean that something went down and he said, I don't think I'm going to take abuse from the machine anymore. I don't think I'm going to take abuse from who the Hoteps call the redacted anymore. Maybe even further, he said, you know what? I'm not going to be the whipping post for the beast anymore. I don't know what went through his head, but I'll tell you this. That guy is, as we used to say in the meme world, based in a way that many people are not. So what happened is Kwame decided to say basically truth about what's going on at that high level of the powers that be, the invisible hands that control, in his case, Top Flight Sports Society. And that's the same group that really kind of controls everything. I mean, they control media, they control the campus, they control government, and that's an old one, right? They took control of that a long time ago. And so Kwame Brown was like, you know what? First of all, how am I going to be a bust or a scrub? I think Stephen A. Smith calls him a bona fide scrub or a certified scrub, something like that. Which is a little weird, but Kwame Brown, he for 20 years has recognized Stephen A. Smith as somebody who's just made his money, had his grift of becoming somebody by clowning on Kwame Brown. And he called him out. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, but Kwame Brown called it when he said, watch, Stephen A. Smith's white daddy is going to tell him to come out and push back against me even harder. And that is exactly what happened. So anyway, back to the early stuff. Brown was like, well, how did I make $62 million and I'm a bust? How did I play 10 years in the NBA and be a bust? Why did people keep giving me contracts if I'm a bust? If you look at the metrics, and the people who jump all over Kwame Brown are the same people who are always bending everybody's ear about the metrics, and all this stuff. So he's like, well, let's look at the metrics. And he has a case, right? And he was hurt a fair amount. But the main one is he brought up the case that when he was drafted by the Washington franchise, run by Michael Jordan did not want Kwame Brown. He wanted to trade Kwame Brown to the Clippers, or to the Bulls, for Elton Brand, which makes perfect sense. But nobody ever explained that. It was only Michael Jordan saying what he was saying, and Michael Jordan then clashes with management, which doesn't trade Kwame Brown. And so now you have a power struggle. Brown is caught in the middle. So every mistake he makes is accentuated. And Michael Jordan has the press licking his boots. And so Michael Jordan comes up with he has small hands, he can't dunk. And Brown, again, brought up being a based farmer, a person connected to the earth. Down south, I believe, is where he lives. I think in Georgia. He says, what franchise, what business do you know, drafts somebody, and then talks that person down and devalues that person. And what it was Jordan wasn't getting what he wanted from upper management, and so he decided to trash their golden boy, first pick of the draft out of high school, probably the first person out of high school as the number one pick. Well, the first one, and they changed the rules after LeBron, so going to be one of the last, if not the last. and they talk him down, and they drag his quality down. This is the guy that they said we're gonna back the, put the franchise on this guy's back, and have this young, prodigy for a decade. Well, it all went bad, and it all went south, and Brown became the butt of jokes, and the main point of this video cast, because you can hear, and I recommend you do this. Kwame Brown has done what a lot of people should do, and he's owned the term bust. His YouTube channel is called Kwame Brown Bust Life. And it's one of those things that if you own the term that they use to trash you and you embrace it, that term loses its power. So Kwame Brown Bust Life is his YouTube channel. I know he has an Instagram. My buddy saw, apparently he had an Instagram live when he said enough is enough with this Kwame bashing stuff. And so he's just been spitting truth since then. But I went back, and here's the focus. I went back on Kwame Brown Bust Life on YouTube, and he had a 45 to 55 minute video on school choice, of all things. Now, I've been in the school business since 1996. So Kwame Brown, first pick of the draft, out of high school, 6'11", 250, seen as a quote-unquote bust, made $62.9 million over a 10-year career. Has a video on school choice. And it had, at the time, I don't know what it is now, it had 896 views. Now, you have to understand, the Kwame Brown videos are now getting anywhere from 150,000 to almost 300,000 views on YouTube. On YouTube. I don't even know what the Instagram numbers are like, which are going to be higher. So, this video had 896 views. It was from around 8 to 10 months ago. And what Brown says is what the top people in the homeschool and unschool and charter school movement say. He says that the money that is attached to a student should follow the student, right? Just like we do with the food programs, right? If you get a check for WIC or some other kind of public assistance, they don't tell you you have to go to Walmart and buy food, or you have to go to Target and buy food. You could take that money and go and buy acceptable items at various outlets, at various stores. And all Kwame Brown does is intelligently explain how the school choice thing is flawed because the money should follow the student. It's very well stated and exceedingly anti-establishment. And he just, at the time, this is 10 months ago, was kind of a nobody. I didn't know he had a YouTube channel. I didn't know what happened to Kwame Brown. He'd been laying low. Well, now they've poked the hornet's nest. And Kwame Brown, of all people, if you want to hear truth about the establishment and what it's like and what's going on at the top, he destroyed Charlamagne the God from the Breakfast Club. He keeps explaining how Stephen A. Smith's white daddy is going to make him Stephen A. Smith, come out and say whatnot. And it happens just like Kwame says. And the guy's become a lightning rod of truthful based talk. Now, it's laced with all kinds of profanity and N-words, right? Because certain people can say things that certain people can't. I'm not about to get vilified for that one. But it's eye-opening. And here's the thing that I'm going to end with. Kwame Brown's been working on his farm, riding a tractor, leaving everybody alone. He does not have a boss. He is unfireable. And they trotted out Jemele Hill to try to call him dangerous. It failed. Matt Barnes and the people at what Kwame Brown calls none of the smoke, because they don't want none of the smoke podcast. He's like, he calls them out, and Barnes tried to act tough, and Kwame Brown's like, all right, well, I'll go on the Breakfast Club, I'll go on No Smoke podcast, but we're going to bring police because you're going to try to get me to be violent and prove your point, which is exactly what they would try to do. Call him out, make him look ridiculous, and boom. And then they've nullified him, and they've gotten rid of another truth teller. Just like that's what they do to everybody, and Kwame Brown knows the game. That's what's incredible and fantastic about this. So they pulled out all the stops, and so far none of them has worked. They said he was crazy, didn't work. Said he was violent, didn't work. Said he was dangerous, didn't work. They said that he wants to be famous, which doesn't work because it doesn't make sense, because he was not famous at all. He was invisible and has been invisible for 10 years. And I like pro basketball. I follow pro ball. And I had no idea what happened to Kwame Brown. Hadn't heard from the man anywhere. So this guy is really something else. Now, the Hoteps have been talking about how, Jesus Hotep talking about how Hotep Jesus talking about how he thinks Kwame Brown is going to let us down. I don't think so. And it's because I went, if you go back in his social media, he's doing what he's done. It's just that now he has an audience because some major players decided to poke the hornet's nest, and now he's out stinging everybody, and it's getting, a lot of people who speak truth to power, real truth to power, not the woke nonsense and bullshit that's out there now, real truth to power, not academic or university truth to power, this nonsensical corporate media truth to power, like real stuff like Kwame is. They try to shut everybody like that down. They've done it to Owen Benjamin, Vox Day. I mean, the list is endless. Dave Chappelle started speaking truth to power. They brought him back into the fold. So anyway, the Kwame Brown thing deserves to be analyzed, and I think it is. I would recommend Jason Whitlock, Curtis Scoon have their last two shows have highlighted and analyzed what Brown has been talking about. He's not dishing dirt. He's explaining how the top of the pyramid works from the angle that he saw. And because he's just a person of the land and free, all the tools and all the tricks that they're using aren't working. And it's related to what Owen Benjamin has said, right? Owen Benjamin is off the rails truth, like off the rails in a good way. Like he's off the grid. He's a free man. And Kwame Brown is as well. Kwame Brown is kind of like the black Owen Benjamin, because Kwame Brown doesn't want what they have. He has no desire to have what they have and do what they are doing. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want to be famous. He doesn't want a broadcasting job. He doesn't want to coach in the NBA. And that's what Benjamin's been talking about for years now. Like, he doesn't want the gig on late night television. Doesn't have any urge for that. And that makes what they do and the things they say and the tricks they pull to try to shut somebody down, it makes them powerless. Makes the most powerful people in the world powerless. And it's really because that person isn't a threat. They're not trying to take their money or prestige or anything like that. So it's a really interesting thing. But you heard it here first. Kwame Brown is the black Owen Benjamin. And he's going to be on his tractor. And he'll probably get kicked off of one or two or three social media platforms. Probably, maybe even before the end of the summer. We'll see, and I don't think Kwame Brown would care if he gets booted. And then he could join the ranks of me, yours truly, who got kicked off of Twitter, and I don't care either. Talk to you soon.